Death Note is not about ideas. Death Note is not about characters. Death Note is not even a story. Death Note is a game. It is the intellectual battle between Light and his enemies, where they fight to outmaneuver each other in the ongoing Kira investigation. Character and theme are cut down to streamline the narrative, so what you get is a fast-paced, condensed experience. Don't believe me? Here's what I mean. Light Yagami's character arc into a psychotic serial killer starts and ends at episode 1. After that, he stays the same for the rest of the show, never questioning what he's doing, and the show never even dives into why he is the way he is. How did he get such a strong sense of justice? Why is he okay with killing criminals and even suspects? Why does he want to be a god? Such questions are never answered. In the same way, the show never really goes deep into the themes and ideas of justice and the morality of killing. Author Sugumi Oba himself said that he didn't think too hard about it. The other characters in the show are not fleshed out at all either. For the most part, they are one-dimensional, uncompelling, and in the case of Misa, insufferable. Just to be clear, Light and L are exceptions to varying degrees. If you don't agree with what I'm saying, then please tell me what character development happens with any of them. Put it down in the comments while you're subscribing to my channel. The truth is, you won't find anything. And there is nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with having very little character development and focusing very little on the themes. And I say that 100% seriously. When judging a work of art, you should look at what it's trying to do, and then ask, how well does it achieve that goal? If it's trying to make you feel scared or tense, how well does it do that? Death Note was not trying to develop characters or themes, so I don't think it's fair to judge the show based on those aspects. So no, there is no issue with that. It'd be like judging a fish on how well it climbs trees. What the show was going for was an intellectual thrill ride at breakneck speed. Character development and themes could have even been detrimental to this goal, because it would have bogged down the pacing. However, there is massive potential lost from this approach to storytelling. What if it did flesh out the characters and take them on emotional and compelling arcs? What if it did choose to engage with the themes and ideas surrounding the morality of killing and the nature of justice? Death Note has an amazing premise with limitless potential, along with two characters just dying to be fleshed out. And it's a bit of a shame we didn't get to see that. Recently, writers are starting to approach remakes from a different angle. Remakes are becoming a way to tell the same story in a different way. Case in point, The Last of Us. The show takes large deviations from the game's story, allowing us to explore the themes and ideas in a different way. The show isn't a replacement for the game, but a meaningfully different experience which stands alongside the original. A similar approach can be taken with Death Note. The remake can focus less on being condensed and fast-paced, and focus more on the characters and themes of the show. It should take what was there in the original and expand on it. In the original show, there were many pieces to Light's character, which could be brought together to create a fully formed, three-dimensional person, whose internal journey is just as compelling as the external investigation. His ego, his sense of justice, and his love of killing, it could all come together to create a beautiful character portrait, as well as an incredibly compelling arc. Alongside Light, Elle's a character who seems to have so much bubbling underneath the surface. Yet this is not explored thoroughly at all within the show. The remake could dissect him to find out what makes him tick, and it would make for a really compelling character study. The others, like Misa, Soichiro, and Matsuda, could go from boring one-note characters to genuinely likable people with interesting stories of their own. Beyond this, the remake can address some of the issues with the original. As great as the original series is, it's certainly not without its flaws. For one, its plot, which has been lauded for its logical consistency, is rife with holes. Here are a few examples. In episode 2, how did L find a criminal with L in his name, who was able to do a live broadcast calmly whilst being sentenced for execution? And how's L able to get him arrested and convicted in absolute secrecy? This is an incredibly contrived and likely illegal set of events to occur, and it never gets explained. Not even the police knew this was happening, as they were surprised by this event when it unfolded. Another plot hole is when Light talks to Naomi Misara. In episode 6, he says that his father is leading the task force, but in episode 7, he says that no one knows who's a part of the task force, that it's kept a secret. In episode 8, Light manages to fit an entire micro TV into a crisp packet while it remains sealed. How? I could go on, but I think you get the point. If you want to see more plot holes, then I'd recommend watching Overanalyzing Anime's series on Death Note, as he goes quite into depth on the things that don't make sense in the show. But other than this, the remake could also improve on the less compelling aspects of the show, such as its second part, which many argue to be poorly executed. The remake could either execute it better, or it could restructure the story so that it isn't two distinct parts. I hope I've made it clear why I think Death Note deserves a remake. Now, I would like to share my ideas for what that would look like. Without further ado, here is my draft for the first episode. The show opens with a young Light Yagami, only 9 years of age. Him and his family have gone out for a day in the park. There's a pond nearby, which Light and his sister start walking towards, while their parents watch from afar. Out of the blue, Light picks up a rock and throws it at a nearby bird, hitting it. His younger sister looks at him horrified and asks him why he did that. He says it's just for fun. Light continues to throw rocks at the birds until eventually his sister picks up a rock of her own and throws it at him. He then gets angry at his sister and asks her, "Why did you do that? How dare you?" Then he drags her into the pond and throws her in, laughing lightheartedly as he does so. Every time she tries to get up, he pushes her down, laughing more and more intensely as he does so. Eventually, he grabs her head and holds it underwater. His laugh has become psychopathic at this point. Their parents show up looking horrified, and they pull Light back, saving his sister. After this, the show cuts to 9 years later, where Light is now 18. Light is a top student at school. We get to see a day in his life, where he goes through a school day quite bored and with a dull demeanor. In class, he gets one of his practice tests back and has scored 100%, getting praised by both his teacher and by his peers, but not responding or reciprocating very much. However, outside the window, he sees a book fall to the ground, looking intrigued. In his break, we see him sitting alone while reading the Death Note. His friend Misa walks up to him, and he quickly swaps the Death Note for another book, without her noticing. They've known each other for a while, and Misa is one of the few people Light talks to. She first congratulates him on his test score, to which he says, "Did you expect anything else?" showing he has an ego. She asks him about his plan for the future, which he says is to join the police as a detective. She says that Light would make a good detective, and that people like him are needed to get rid of criminals, like the ones that killed her parents. She then tries to talk to him about what he's doing, and Light acts dismissive. In the end, Light explains what Shinigami are, and it serves as exposition. Misa asks him why he's interested in something so dark, but Light doesn't respond. The show then cuts to a dodgeball game, where it's specified that headshots aren't allowed. During the game, Light's teammate is hit in the head, and the other side makes fun of them for it, but the referee doesn't notice. When Light gets the ball, he then aims it at the opponent's head, and he thinks in his head, someone needs to put him in his place, and it'll be fun. He then flashes back to a talk with his parents. They asked him why he threw rocks at birds, and he said it was fun. When they asked why he put his sister in the water, he said, "She hit me. Besides, I liked watching her squirm." His parents then take a minute outside of the room to talk. His mother says that Light needs a therapist and that they are out of their depth. However, his father says that Light is his son, and what kind of father am I if I can't raise my own son? He then walks in and tells Light that the impulses and urges he feels to hurt people are evil, and that he needs to control them in order to be a good person. Flashing forward to the dodgeball game, he stops himself from throwing the ball and then gets hit out. The show then cuts to Light and his family eating dinner at the dinner table. Light tells his parents about his test results, to which they are pleased. However, they are always ever so slightly uneasy with Light, remembering the incident. Light takes notice of this and asks if everything is okay, to which they reply yes. This uneasy behavior has gone on for 9 years and has somewhat alienated Light. They talk about Light's future prospects and the entrance exams for his university. Despite his parents' excitement, Light seems disengaged from the conversation. His father then tells him that there's been a breakthrough in the case. For years, Light has been helping the police in solving crimes, including the case of a serial killer, which L has refused to assist with. Light's eyes brighten up, and he becomes curious. His father tells him to finish food quickly and meet him at the police station. At the station, Light, Soichiro, and Matsuda, along with other police, go in for the briefing. They are informed that L still refuses to help in the serial killer case, and then they review the new evidence. Light quickly makes an excellent deduction, displaying his intelligence and usefulness. This can be anything, it doesn't really matter. However, the briefing is interrupted by news of a hostage situation. Light is then promptly sent home. At home, he starts watching the news on his phone to see what's going on, and he sees that 4 armed gunmen have taken over a shopping center with hostages. Light takes out the death note, questioning whether it's okay to kill these gunmen. He flashes back to his father's words about how his impulses to kill are evil. He then reminds himself that the death note can't be real, and so writing their names will do nothing. Then, just for the sake of it, just to be sure, Light writes their names in the death note, telling himself that nothing will really happen because of this. Then, after 40 seconds, it's reported that all of them have died from heart attacks, almost simultaneously. Light is taken aback by this, shocked that the death note is real. But as the shock subsides, we see his mouth slowly fade into a smile. The episode then fades into the credits, showing Ryuk standing right behind Light. That's just my first draft for the first episode of this hypothetical remake. But if you want to know where I want this to go, I'll give you the broad strokes for the rest of the show. Light, and eventually Misa, will continue to use the Death Note to kill criminals, but they will get confronted with more and more morally ambiguous situations. Misa would be doing this for innocent and genuinely altruistic reasons, wanting to spare people of the suffering that she went through because of criminals. But as the story goes on, she'll start to question the morality of what she's doing as she runs into more and more grey situations. This way, she can serve as a foil to Light. She'd still be innocent, and she'd still get manipulated by Light, but it would be much more subtle than the nonsense in the anime. On the other hand, Light is more complicated. His ambitions grow from just saving people in hostage situations to killing more and more criminals. He starts with taking down criminal organizations and going after people for lighter crimes, and he ends up wanting to be the god of the new world. This is due to him embracing and justifying his violent impulses, rather than suppressing them as he's been doing for so long, as well as him seeing that his actions fail to improve society. For example, he'll end up killing people after him, because all those that oppose Kira are evil. Part of him wants to do this simply because he enjoys killing and being all-powerful. It's thrilling for him. Ironically, he's suppressing the world in the same way his father told him to suppress himself. His parents wanted to eradicate his violent impulses, just as Light wants to eradicate the violent impulses of the world and its people. On the other hand, L would be a morally grey actor to begin with, only investigating Kira out of his own curiosity and need for a challenge. He is okay with sometimes using unsavory actions to get what he wants. His arc would be him growing into an actual person, learning to care about others, and eventually hunting Kira in the name of justice. Soichiro, Light's dad, would be the only morally good actor in the Kira hunt, as someone who tries to do the right thing and follow the rules, which can lead to conflict with L. However, as the investigation goes on and Light is singled out, he becomes more conflicted, as he wants to view himself as a good father, and Light being Kira would go against that. This would lead to him going into denial, not wanting Light to be Kira. These are just my half-baked ideas, and they only exist to show how the show could work. This isn't the only way it could work, but I hope these suggestions illustrate the potential there is. I hope Death Note gets a remake, and I hope for it to be great.